G'day and welcome to another almost daily live tips with me, DC, David Carruthers. And this is part of our Future of Hospitality series of different events that I guess I've been building since April. And the daily lives are just meant to be conversational tips. And let me, there we go. We've got feedback from the live being shown through LinkedIn, which you're listening to on the live through LinkedIn. There you go. Time delay. So what I want to do is today I want to talk about resilience. And I want to talk about the resilience that we're going to need to get through the next 3 to 12 months, maybe longer, and sort of why we need that resilience and what that resilience is going to involve. But let's just put this in context in terms of, for anybody who's not watched any of these daily tips, the Future of Hospitality concept. I should do a slide for this really to make it easy for me to explain, and I will. But essentially, Future of Hospitality started a few months ago when I created what is essentially a monthly briefing that is designed to give hospitality leaders, business leaders like yourselves, a bit of a heads up on what's coming around the corner. And when I talk about around the corner, I mean the next 3 to 12 months. So what's happening in the external environment over the next 3 to 12 months that's going to have, that's potentially going to have some impact for most of you, right? Not all, but most. So, and there's a whole range of things that are going to have a bit of an impact. And I have got a slide for that, but I might not have it loaded. We'll see whether I can pull that up. Sorry, I need to just lean around the side. No, I can't pull that one up right now. But we know what they are. They're rising prices, they're recessionary behavior, they're the impact of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, their systemic staff shortages, their supply chain issues, blah, 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 right? We've got all of these things that we've never had happening all at the same time. And so that's what Future of Hospitality is. It's giving a heads up. It's really talking about how they might impact us, and importantly, some of the ways we can address those threats, those challenges, those risks, and if in a way, turn them into opportunities where I'm hoping you guys will be the people who thrive through this and at least survive, because there's going to be a massive amount of businesses failing, closing their doors forever. So in the UK, in the last couple of weeks, it's now become clear. We were talking about this 2 or 3 months ago, but it's now becoming clear that the rise in energy costs is going to have a massive impact on the industry. Clearly, it's not just about costs going up. Some of the pubs in the UK are paying tens of thousands of pounds in energy costs, and pubs are now actually a number of pubs have come out publicly and said that they'll be closing their doors during winter because they can't afford to heat the places in order to let people come in and enjoy themselves. So, when pubs are publicly saying they will be closing their doors in winter because of the rising energy costs, we know that there's some drama, right? There's some challenges going on that are seriously impacting our industry. So where was I? The monthly briefing then drops down into almost weekly, trying to do them weekly, newsletters that pick up a specific element of the monthly briefing theme. So each week ish, there's a newsletter that basically covers a subject, and there's 4 of those in a month, right? In theory, as long as I can get them written and published and out, then we start to address those subjects. And then these daily live tips are all about tapping in that week to the subject or the topic that I've put in the newsletter, and just really giving some tips on how to move forward. So if you're here live or you're watching the recording of this, which will be available on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on YouTube, then I'm really happy you're here. Please, if at all possible, comment and just say whether you're watching live or you're watching the recorded version and where you're calling from. It just gives me a bit of information and feedback about when I'm doing these live and whether I should do them at a different time of day, and also where people are coming from, calling from, where people are watching from, so that I've got an idea of time zones, because we've got people all over the world tapping into Future of Hospitality. We've got over 5,000 hospitality business leaders now involved in some shape or form in either attending the briefings, registering for the briefings and attending the briefings, subscribing and reading the newsletters, watching the daily lives, turning up to masterclasses that we're doing. So yeah, so we've got a bit of engagement from the US. We've got people in different countries in Europe. We've got people from the Middle East, and we've got a load of people from the UK, and we've got a massive amount of people from Australia. So yeah, so if you're watching at any point, just say g'day, and then I can see the stats. I know how many people are watching from the analytics, and it's good. It's improving on the daily lives, even though my performance is possibly not improving. But yeah, give me some feedback. Let me know I'm just not talking to myself. Yeah. Okay. Right. Resilience. Let's talk about resilience. So resilience is really the ability to deal with shocks and to get back up and get going again. It's in a simple way. That's thanks, Payout. Great to see you. I can see you're on LinkedIn. That's good. And you're from the UK. Wonderful. Love it. So resilience is about our ability to deal with shocks, to deal with things that happen that may be unexpected, or maybe the impact of them is greater than we expected, and to be able to keep going. Now, resilience is often talked about ourselves. So we're resilient individuals. If we can be knocked down and get back up again, right? People talk about resilience. And about 10 years ago, I've mentioned this in different forums, but I burnt out. So I after a 15-year corporate career where I'd reached CEO, and then I'd done 12 years as an entrepreneur. After 5 years of those 12 years, I was a multi-millionaire. I'd done really well. I'd opened a small group of places myself, and some events happened in the external environment that impacted me and my businesses, and I went through a burnout. And it's not too dissimilar to what's going on for a lot of people right now. There's events happening in the external environment that are impacting your businesses, and sadly, there's going to be a lot of burnout. There's going to be a lot of people who become stressed and who become ill. I had 5 hospitalizations in 12 months, and that resulted in burnout, PTSD. Took me 2 or 3 years to get to get myself healthy and get my well-being back on track. And I guess, there was some resilience there, because I eventually got myself back on my feet and moved forward again. But it cost me a few $1,000,000, and it almost cost me my life. And I lived through an interesting experience that I would suggest was more reminiscent of an episode of The Sopranos than normal life. And one day that story will be told, and I look forward to that day. But for now, I'm talking about you, and I'm talking about how we can help you be resilient. So we talked about an example, my example of resilience. And what I learned going through that was that I wasn't looking after myself. As I got deeper into the situation, the real life Sopranos episode that I went through, I wasn't paying attention to my well-being. I wasn't paying attention to my health. I wasn't paying attention to the impact that these external environments that were having an impact on my businesses, that were having an impact on me and my health and my ability to deal with it. So one of the big things for me that came out of this was actually looking after my well-being. So after I recovered my health and well-being, which took me 2 or 3 years, I learned a lot in that time about well-being, about all the different elements of well-being, and I even got accredited to deliver a well-being measurement tool called the GLWS, Global Leadership Wellbeing Survey. Now, the depth that I've gone into on wellbeing enables me now to work with clients and make sure that when I'm helping people build or recover or develop or transform their businesses, I'm also working on the leader themselves and their well-being. And what I want to do through the various events, and particularly these daily tips, because they can be quite, I'm hoping they're going to be quite conversational, is to just share the fact that a lot of you will not be looking after your well-being to the degree that you probably could. I won't say should, because we should never say people should do anything, really. It's up to you to choose to do it. But as the pressure builds, where's the pressure coming from? Well, the pressure is going to come from the fact that we've got these rising prices, we've got recessionary behavior impacting customers' spend, we've got rising prices impacting discretionary spend amount, their budget, and they're spending less. So ultimately, we're going to have this point where food costs have pushed up so high, energy costs have pushed up so high, customers are spending less anyway, and that's going to squeeze cash flow, and that's going to put a lot of places under pressure. Now, whether you're a general manager in a multi-site group where your house might not be directly on the line as security for a loan to the bank, as many business owners are, and 40 or 50% of business owners have got their homes on the line. If things go wrong, the bank can come and get their house, or they've signed a lease as the guarantor for the lease as well, and that enables their landlord, when they don't pay their rent, to attempt to seize assets. But if you're working as a manager, your salary, and ultimately the business doesn't work, and the business goes down, then you're not paid. Now, at the moment, you could probably go and find another job relatively easily, but that's not going to be the case in 3 to 6 months' time. That's not my prediction. I think the staff shortage that we've got going on at the moment is going to very quickly disappear as the number of businesses start to close down, or not start. They've already started, but they accelerate. And as more businesses close down and the staff working in those businesses go and fill the vacancies that exist in the other businesses, we're going to end up with very little, if none, staff vacancies in the industry. Just about the time that the governments will come up with their policy decisions on how they're going to solve the staff problem that possibly no longer exists. But to be resilient personally as an individual, I believe, and I encourage my clients, and I'm encouraging all of you guys to basically take more interest in your own well-being. And what happens when you start to take more interest in your well-being is that you become more aware of the impact events around you are having on you, and it helps you prepare to deal with the shocks, to deal with the pressure, to deal with the stress that is inevitably coming for many people. Not all of you. Some of you are going to thrive and you're going to do really well in this, but sadly the majority aren't, and a significant proportion of the majority are going to find themselves under incredible pressure and heading towards burnout. So my messages are all about avoiding burnout. My focus is on strategies to keep your businesses alive and thriving, but I want the humans that are out there, that you guys as human beings, as leaders of businesses, whether you're the CEO of a multi-site group running 100 or 1,000 or 5,000 pubs and restaurants, or you're an individual business owner who's been in business for 10 or 20 years and never had anything like the events that are happening right now happening to you, or you're a manager in somebody else's business, or an area manager, or you work in the head office and you're watching the pain that's going on, with other human beings. So I'm hoping that we're going to have a bit of compassion for each other. I'm hoping that we're going to support each other. I'm hoping that we're going to recognize when somebody is struggling and they're really literally only just surviving, and we're going to rally around and help people. But just come back to resilience. So resilience in humans is our ability to pick ourselves back up again. Now, a lot of people are going to get knocked over during this next 3 to 12 months. And whether that's as an employee, losing your employment and having to find another job and going through the whole, there's what happens, which is you lose your job or you lose your business. That's what happened. That's just a fact. You lose it. But the emotional connection to that, what it does to us as human beings, is quite powerful. And being able to get through those situations and bounce back, get back on the horse, as people say, get knocked off your bicycle, get back on it, get knocked off your horse or fall off your horse, get back on it and carry on. It's easily said, and sometimes it's really hard to do. But people are going to have to do that. They have to learn to do that, and we'll talk. As we go through the next few months, there'll be more and more people facing that and looking for support, and hopefully the future of hospitality tribe, community, network, through the daily lives, but also through the Facebook group that I've created, that will become a community, a big community, I believe, going forward. As more and more of the currently 5,000 or so hospitality business leaders start to feed into it. And I'll put a link into the comments for you to join it if you're watching now. Yeah, we've some of us are competing against each other's locally, but we're part of an industry where we tend to love hospitality, right? We're not working in a factory producing widgets, and that's no detriment to anybody who's working in a factory producing widgets. But generally speaking, we're in an industry where, in the majority of cases, our goal in life is to put a smile on the faces of customers coming into our venues, and it's a real privilege to be able to do that. And that's what has kept me interested in the industry for 40 years plus, that ability to put a smile on people's faces. Now, when we talk about resilience in the business, what that generally is the way it's going to manifest itself moving forward is in our ability to get through cash flow challenges. So that means that if we have a really difficult few months, and in the UK in particular, Australia is following with energy costs, but in the UK, the energy costs have just gone insane. And the huge corporates that are making record profits out of energy supply, not necessarily the retailers, but the actual producers who are making record profits are about to destroy tens of thousands of small businesses in the UK. And the people who are allowing that to happen are the politicians who've taken the cap off electricity prices in the UK. And strangely enough, those big energy companies donate to the very political parties that are making those decisions. There's a surprise. Okay, getting back to resilience. Resilience in our businesses is going to be about having some money in the bank, basically, to deal with cash flow challenges. So it's highly likely that as prices keep going up, as customers spend less, as energy costs go up, cash flow is going to be squeezed. So your ability to get through a period where you might move into negative cash flow, or you certainly might be moving to break even rather than making a healthy profit, that's business resilience. That's your ability to get through. Also, your ability to be dynamic. Now, I use an analogy where I talk about dancing with the external environment. And for the last 20 or 30 years, other than possibly the GFC, generally the industry has been pretty stable. Now, there'll be local situations where that's not the case. And I'm sure you'll tell me about them. But the reality is that the industry in general has grown. It's been relatively stable. The businesses that have succeeded are the ones that have aligned themselves with their external environment, and they've identified target markets that they can serve really well and very profitably, and they've done well, right? That's essentially what a thriving business has done. Sometimes it would have been by accident, sometimes it would have been by good planning, but ultimately they've connected with their external environment and done really well. And that external environment, in the main, has been reasonably steady and stable. Now, we're going into a period where that external environment is going to do this, right? It's going to go absolutely crazy. So it's going to be like a storm. It's going to be like a roller coaster. It's going to be like being a ball in a box that's been shook up, right? We're going to have, it's going to be really, really dynamic. And business resilience is partly going to be about being able to dance with that external environment. So imagine two dancers, and one of them is the external environment, the other one's your business, and you're basically keeping up with that keeping up with that person. If they move one way to the beat, you're moving as well. And that's what's going to help. That's what's going to help a lot of businesses survive. Now, that means that when you've got a business model that has been very established over years, or you're in a multi-site group that's centrally driven, decisions are centrally driven, you're in a brand that's got lots of outlets and you have to follow exactly the way the brand works, you've got a very rigid format. And what I'm encouraging for sure, what I'm trying to inspire business leaders to do is to be more responsive to the changes in the external environment. And there's all sorts of ways we can do that. One of the ways that's happening, that a lot of business leaders have done over the last few months, is been much more responsive to price increases. Right, the industry's not been particularly dynamic around price in the past, and that's partly been a challenge of a lot of competition. So prices have tended to stay lower. Now, what's happened? People have realized they've got to put their prices up as the cost prices go up, and we talked about that last week in a number of these daily tips about being careful about how high you push price, because you'll push your customers away, especially when they've got less money in their pockets. But that's an example of being responsive to something that's going on in the external environment. Now, as customers start spending less money, one of the things that hospitality business leaders have got to be, I believe, have got to be really hot on, is understanding what your target market sees, experiences, believes is good value for money. And value for money is going to become, I believe, the huge driver of competitive advantage in the industry over the next 12 months. If you can be the venue in your geographic area, your competitive area, that offers the greatest value for money for your particular target market, you're going to thrive through this crisis. It's a crisis. It's a chaos. It's a tsunami. It's the perfect storm. But if you can convince people, your existing customers, so that you retain as many of them as possible, and other people's customers who are just a bit sick of the prices going up and are looking to get better value for money from somewhere, then you've got a higher chance of doing well. And that's being resilient in your business plans. So that's an example of business resilience. We've talked about an example of personal resilience. And tap into the daily sessions, the newsletters published on LinkedIn. I will be setting up or launching. I've started to do the work on it, but I've got a Future of Hospitality website that will start to be the sort of holding container for information, for strategies, short training videos. But the big focus for me will be on business transformation, which is my thing anyway. Changing strategies in environments that are rapidly changing, so high rate of change situations, and the leadership and strategic focus that needs to be applied in those situations, and well-being and life balance. So you are going to go through a lot of shit, guys, in the next 3 to 12 months. But, keep the things that are important to you in your life and the people that are important to you in your life. Look after them too. Be there for them. They're going to be there for you. And, ultimately, jobs and businesses will come and go. But the damage that can be done to relationships, whether it's partners, family, friends, when stress gets high and well-being disappears, can be quite significant. So that's it. It's 7:30 UK time. It will be 4:30 Melbourne, Sydney time, and it'll be other times elsewhere in the world where you're watching from. I'll just put a call out to Daniel in Hungary. If you're watching, I appreciated the messages yesterday. And that's it until tomorrow. So I'll be doing lives. We're on Tuesday today, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week. So I hope to see some of you, and others that join us in the next few days. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.